reaction to the nomination of Pete Hegseth?
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you. Well, I think Mr. Hegseth has an impressive record. He went to prestigious schools. He's a major in the Minnesota National Guard, multiple deployments, combat deployments that resulted in personal decorations. I think he's well qualified to be a lieutenant colonel in the Minnesota National Guard. Does that qualify him to be Secretary of Defense? That's a question that the Senate is going to have to wrestle with in the confirmation, and that your viewers are going to have to wrestle with when they judge the quality that they're receiving from the Trump administration.
Let me go.
I think there's two things that, yes, sir.
Sorry, you continue.
I would urge the Senate to look at two things with regard to his record. First is competence. Does he have the record demonstrating competence in what is probably the most important and the most powerful job in the cabinet? The Secretary of Defense has a number of hats he wears, and one of them is he is in the operational chain of command. It's actually the Secretary of Defense that makes the decision to put others overseas and in harm's way. In addition to that, he also leads and manages the largest organization in our government, one of the largest organizations in the world. Does he have the character and the competence to do that? And when I say character, I mean, does he have the courage to say to the president, if the president has an idea that perhaps would damage our standing, our national security standing overseas or at home, does he have the courage to say, Mr. President, that's not a good idea, we really shouldn't do that? Again, that's a decision that the Senate's going to have to make during his confirmation.
Let me ask you about your experience in the Army. As I said, you had a top job in the Army during a moment that I highlighted, when then President Trump pardoned 2 Army soldiers accused of murdering Afghan civilians and reversed the demotion of Navy SEAL Eddie Gallagher. What was the impact of then President Trump's moves then?
It sent, especially with regard to those 3 individuals who were alleged to have committed war crimes. The 2 Army officers were alleged to have ordered their men to kill civilians, and one of the individuals had been convicted of that, being at a court-martial and sentenced to Leavenworth, and the other was pending a court-martial. The pardon that came down really sent the message to the troops in the field that you don't have to obey the laws of war, you don't have to adhere to the Geneva Conventions, you can kill civilians. That's something that our Army, our nation simply does not do. Our people wouldn't stand for that. You're supposed to protect civilians on the battlefield, not victimize them.
Mr. Hegseth had a role in convincing then President Trump of making those decisions. Are you concerned by his role in that moving forward?
Well, his role was to advocate for those pardons that the president awarded while he was with Fox News. He repeatedly had members of the family, wives of the 2 Army officers on to tell their side of the story. And really, the Army didn't have an opportunity to tell its side of the story. And it was the Fox News advocacy that prompted then President Trump to grant those pardons. And that is a concern.
As you mentioned at the top, he's a veteran, won 2 Bronze Stars, served in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Guantanamo Bay. Does that kind of experience help when it comes to leading the Department of Defense?
Well, it's the experience that he knows what it is like to be a troop in the field. And that's important. We've seen that in previous secretaries, both Secretary Mattis, Secretary Esper, and I think it's important that experience is under his belt. But it certainly was on a lower level. He led troops as a major. He probably had maybe 10, 15, 20 people he was in charge of. That's vastly different than what he's going to be called upon to do as Secretary of Defense.
The top of my story highlighted some of his criticism of what he called the DEI woke stuff. Have diversity efforts had an impact on military readiness, in your opinion?
Not in my opinion. I haven't seen that. I haven't heard that from the people that I stay in contact with. What you're referencing there is